This is Border Battle with King and CJ with King.
You want to go get a hot dog at halftime? Well, guess what? You can also take the under in the second half of 25. You know what I mean?
And CJ.
You can win Super Bowls right now with me and Grandpa Brady over here. Let's do it that way.
Presented by the fine students and faculty of the Oklahoma State University School of Media and Strategic Communications in beautiful Paul Miller Building. Broadcast live on KXZY, OSU Student Radio. And now, live from Studio 318, it's Border Battle with Jourdan, the Great King, and CJ, the Viking Notch.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXZY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live Border Battle on demand if you're a visual learner and want to watch us instead of listen to us on KXZY. Facebook.com/Border Battle Show, Twitter.com/Border Battle OSU on Twitter. We're joined today right at the top of the show here by Stillwater News Press's Jourdan Bishop. Jourdan, thanks for taking out a few minutes. Second appearance on the Border Battle.
Thanks for having me again. And obviously must have done something right the first time or else you wouldn't ask me again. So thank you very much for the time.
Welcome back. We're going to talk some WNBA draft here, because last night the Oklahoma State Cowgirls had a selection in the draft. Number 18 overall, second round, Lauren Goodwin goes to the Dallas Wings. First reaction on this selection, looked like most mock drafts had this being the place that she would get drafted.
Yeah, man, yeah. But, there's obviously the day before you saw the Dallas Wings actually tweet about her, so you knew that was going to be somewhere she was probably going to end up, her being a Houston native, playing at OSU close there. I think the only other place that gave her a look was Atlanta, who had two picks at, I think, 14 and 15. And so when she didn't go there, I was like, well, she's got to go to Dallas. Midway through the second round, they have a player already in Skylar Diggins, who we all know from Notre Dame a couple years back. But I was talking to the brass there, their president, Greg Bibb. He said they honestly wouldn't have taken Lauren if they didn't think she was going to be contributing to the team. So she's still got to make the team. Training camp starts the 29th. But he said they're thinking she's going to have a bright future. Their coach, Fred Williams, thinks her left-handed drive we all saw last year. It's going to be something that's going to be unique in the WNBA, and it's going to help her get some playing time in the court.
Now, what separates her from being a first-round draft pick? Is it the fact that her perimeter game was not strong this year? Because just over 20% from three this year. It was under 20% for a large chunk of the year this year. Is that the big separation between what is a WNBA first-round draft pick and a second-round draft pick?
I say so, and then plus even though they said that they know her history because of the transfers with 4 different schools, I think that might have been on the radar for some teams because some teams might not want to talk to her and find out what was the reason behind that. And then also, I think a lot of those top schools are schools that go to the Sweet 16, schools that get more national exposure. So I think that part of the reason might have been not being able to go. It wasn't her fault. They went to played the national runner-up Mississippi State, but not getting more national exposure for some scouts.
All right, so you look at some other players in the Big 12. Ariel Atkins goes in the top 10. She was obviously a prolific scorer for Texas, but in her own right, Lauren Goodwin, prolific scorer for Oklahoma State this year.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two players, when you look at Lauren Goodwin, 20.6 points per game, compared to an Ariel Atkins for Texas?
Well, Ariel Atkins has the luxury of having a lot of shooters around her. Brooke McCarty is one. She wasn't drafted, but you have a lot of good shooters around you. So it helps out once the team's there. With Lauren, a lot of times she had to create her own shot. She had to do a lot of things herself. You see that happen. I mean, look at last year, Russell Westbrook. Whenever he didn't have as much help, his scoring was up, but his shooting percentage was down. Look at Trae Young at OU. I mean, when you have talent like Texas does, that helps out you as a shooter, able to create more shots. Lauren had to create a lot of shots herself. She had to try going in the down there in the post and scoring, and sometimes she'd get blocked, and then sometimes she'd have a slump. So when you have other talent around you, it helps you.
So then is it, and I know you kind of, Jourdan kind of touched on this too with her three-point shooting especially, is it fair to say that the pressure for her to actually make the team is going to be kind of almost judging on how she really does with the three-point? Like, obviously, yes, it'll take time to kind of get consistent with it and to build it up, but is that maybe something that she'll maybe feel the most pressure of knowing, like, that's what teams, let's say she does make the roster, teams are going to probably make her shoot a 3-pointer over letting her drive like she did in college.
Yeah, and because you have a lot of bigger people in the WNBA, and that's what talking to Coach Williams down there. They're going to try to get her to learn how to go more on the perimeter because her I think it was in the high 20s was her 3-point percentage. So that's going to be something that she's going to have to learn a lot to get some playing time. And I think she's been working on that the past month in San Antonio. So that's going to be something that she's going to feel the most pressure on, I think.
When I was watching the WNBA draft last night, they put up a graphic, and it's few and far between non-first round draft picks that have let alone making the team, have a big impact. Just very few over the past decade that have been all-stars from the second round or later. What is Lauren Goodwin someone that can buck that trend and be an all-star in this league, or is she resigned to a role player at the next level?
I think she's somebody who can, if she makes the team, which I believe she will, I think she's somebody who can have a great career. You see that at OSU, talking to Bill Lambier from the Las Vegas Aces, he thinks OSU is more of a middle-of-the-pack school, and I think she can be one that change that perception. Talking to her last night, she said that she's been in this situation many times before having to prove herself. Every school she's been to, she had to make that team and prove that she belonged there. So it's no different for her to go into Dallas here in 2 weeks and say, well, I'm a second-round pick. Usually we don't even make the team. I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to make this team. So I think that she's definitely going to be somebody who can be somebody of an all-star caliber in the WNBA.
Do you feel, and obviously I don't want to take away, I hope she makes the Dallas Wings, but is it maybe one of those things to think, okay, if she doesn't, has she maybe said what her plans are if she wouldn't make it at all?
Well, she'd play overseas, I would think. She wants to play professionally. That's been her dream since she was 4. So she'll probably play overseas. Outside of the season, she already has. She's almost done with her master's degree here. She's got a job lined up with Gatorade and PepsiCo that she's had internships with before. So she's connected in the business world. So, but in the season, she wants to be playing somewhere, whether it's here in the WNBA or overseas.
So you talked about Bill Lambier. I do want to touch on A'ja Wilson because special talent and someone that a lot of these WNBA experts consider to be a instant contributor and an instant great player in the WNBA. In the little bit that you maybe have seen of South Carolina, not necessarily a team that gets a lot of pub around here, but obviously won the national championship last year. A'ja Wilson did not lose a SEC tournament title, won it every single year she was in college. What does she bring? What unique skill set, and how transcendent can she be?
Her mobility, obviously. I think you see her and you see somebody who is not limited to just being in the front court and being in the post. She can move around, which is something that with the Aces who are trying to establish themselves as a good team after, I think 14 years in San Antonio. They're one of 2 franchises now in Vegas. They're going to be something that they're going to build around. And she was a 98, I think, overall grade on ESPN. So she's somebody that you can have that you're not just – it's kind of like back in the day. I know the game has changed, but Shaquille O'Neal with Orlando. You have somebody who back then, we all think of Shaq as this big and mobile guy. Back then he can move around. He could go play, and shoot mid-range jumpers. That's what she can do. So she's somebody who can do a lot of things. Is somebody you need right now in this transitional year for them.
You talk about real quick here, just to segue it into the player that did not get drafted that was maybe expected to. You talk about A'ja Wilson's mobility. Was that the big key to Kaylee Jensen going undrafted?
That's why you see that's what Charlie Cream from ESPN said on there, because she was the top available prospect once the draft ended, and said the mobility was going to be something. With her size, Kaylee, it was going to be a tough transition, especially since she had knee surgery last year. And she knew that. She knew it was going to be tough. She slimmed a lot. She slimmed down a lot here in college, but with her size, you'd think she'd be more physical, and she was trying to be more of a finesse player. She bounced around, Kalani Brown, those type of people. But I think that's what people from WNBA are seeing. Like, well, if you're not going to be somebody who's like A'ja Wilson, we want you to be somebody who can pound around the post. And I don't know she was physical enough. So I was talking to Coach Littell last night, and he thinks that if she wants to play somewhere, because she's already got some school lined up in Nebraska for physical therapy school, then she can play overseas. He thinks she's definitely a talent to do that.
Yeah, I would say you actually hit it right when I was going to ask. Is like, then what is next for her?
Yeah. So I guess my next question is she someone that you see going in and making some noise in a camp should she be given a chance as an undrafted free agent, or what is the culture in the WNBA surrounding that type of undrafted free agent style?
Undrafted free agent is very hard to make a team, especially if you look at, we were talking about Lauren Goodwin, second round pick being able to make the team. You won't hear that in the NBA. NBA second rounders still have to make the team, but you have more of a chance. Free agents have more of a chance. Free agents in the WNBA almost non-existent making the team. So it'd be hard for her to do that. I think she could. I mean, she came from a town of 800 people, and was a 40 overall recruit grade whenever she was taken out of high school in Genoa. So she became a 3-time All Big 12 player, led the league in scoring rebounds her junior year. So she obviously has been an underdog before. So she knows what it takes to make a team, just like Lauren, but it's going to be a bit harder because of the way the physicality is in WNBA.
So then is it fair, even to kind of how Lauren had said it too, that you'd said, Kaylee now has another kind of chipped edge of the shoulder. Like you said, she wasn't, really sought after out of high school and what she's been able to accomplish. Is that something now not being drafted that she kind of just adds to her?
Oh yeah, that's definitely something she can add to that and try to prove people wrong. And she has that mentality about her too, because she's not somebody who says, "Oh, well, I guess I'll just take what I've been given." No, she's somebody who wants to prove people wrong. She's done it in her entire career. So if she gets the opportunity for an invite, she's definitely going to take it. I mean, why not? She doesn't start physical therapy school until after the season anyway, so she's got to be in between then. So she wants to do that.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. You talk about the chip on the shoulder and how great she's been at Oklahoma State. Kaylee Jensen, where do you put her in the all-time conversation of Oklahoma State? Because scoring and rebounding wise, she's right up there with the top 3 or 4 greatest to ever come through this program. Where do you put her in when you look at this program as a whole?
See, I probably put her at 4th right now. Number 1, obviously, you have to say Andrea Riley. Like what she did with Coach Bucky and putting this school back on the national stage, and she averaged 30-something points a game. She had that 45 against OU, and they won for the first time in forever. Packed house in GIA. So she has to be number 1. And then there's another one people forget about a long time ago, Jourdan, back in the 70s and 80s, who was over there in the record book. She has a ton of records. So she's one that helped make this program last. 3rd be Brittany Martin, only Big 12 Player of the Year that they've had. What she did, after the losses of Liz Donahoe and Tiffany Bias, able to just rack up double-doubles and, make this team, I think it was a 6 seed or something like that. So then I'd say Kaylee be number 4, which is high praise for considering where she came from again and what she had to do to help this team, because last year there wasn't much talent at all. And they still made the WNT. So.
All right, well, Jourdan, thank you so much. Obviously, this program's got a bright future under Coach Littell, in my opinion. Obviously, going to be interesting. They have to replace Lauren Goodwin, Kaylee Jensen, and then Mandy Coleman, who kind of gets lost in all the shuffle of this draft talk. But thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we keep the guests rolling. Cam Jourdan, Ocali sports editor, joining us, talking some Cowgirl softball. Big series this weekend. That next on the Border Battle on KXCY. Welcome back into Studio 318. The double nutmeg, top shelf, Preds win. That's Cam Jourdan's, apparently his favorite hockey team that we found out. He just started wearing a Nashville Predators hat. Cam Jourdan from the Ocali, sports editor, joins us now. He's also a beat writer for women's tennis, softball, all kinds of busy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks again for having me.
You got it. Again, watching on Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live Border Battle on Demand, or Facebook.com/Border Battle Show, and on OSU Student Radio KXCY. Normally I start with that. Anyways, so your Preds get the 4-2 win.
5-2.
5-2 win. I'm sorry.
Out of the late goal.
Don't
Out
take
of the
that
late
goal away.
Heaven forbid.
No.
So up 1-0 in the series. Is it going for the sweep here?
I think Colorado may get a game when they go back to Denver. Nashville they came out slow last night. They were playing a little bit physical, weren't using their speed as much, but especially when the second period came around and they tallied those two quick goals, they took back control of the game. The crowd really got into it, and it was, I mean, you saw what happened in the third period. So I think they'll probably win in 5, but I could see them winning in 4.
All right, well, that's our hockey talk on Border Battle today. We're going to talk about some OSU softball. Big weekend coming up here. I've heard from some people that maybe Texas not as strong, maybe a little fluky start to Texas for the beginning of the season here, and it probably going to come down to Baylor and OSU for that second spot in the Big 12. Do you share that thought, first of all, and if so, how big of a weekend then is this for OSU?
I kind of share that thought. I think that, and I really think, especially with what Coach Gajewski has done with the softball program, that the team has moved to that upper echelon of Big 12 teams now. OU is obviously, they're in a league of their own. You still have to do a couple things to try to get to their level. But OSU is getting to that level where they're starting to compete with those Baylors, the Texases, other programs like that. This weekend series is huge. They haven't played a team of this caliber since earlier in the year when they were playing Oregon and Arizona. It's going to be the best team they've played in a while. They're going to face some adversity in these couple games that they haven't faced yet. It's going to be really interesting to see how they respond, especially how the freshmen who are playing, especially the ones who've been playing more often as of late, how they respond to the pressure of the big games and the big environments like this, to see how they react to those environments. But it's going to be a great weekend.
How much does this weather of kind of affect how players maybe go around their routines or how these teams play? You know, let's face it, Baylor, they're used to, the warmth, and even, I guess, Oklahoma State, in a sense, there's potential for the wind chill tomorrow. That's why they're playing a doubleheader today now. The schedule's kind of changed. How much does this weather affect, not only their routine, but maybe mentally?
I think mentally the pitchers are scared today because you have the wind that's going to be blowing. It's going to help the batters. If you get a ball up in the air today, the wind may carry it an extra 30, 40, 50 feet and going to take it out of the park. I mean, especially with the wind the way it is today. And then tomorrow, your wind's going to be coming out of the north, so your pitcher's going to be happy because anytime you hit a pop fly, it's not going to go out of the park. You're rarely going to hit a home run. So it kind of depends. I mean, hitters obviously are going to like today. Today, the doubleheaders today are, if I had to take a guess, high scoring. You're going to have high scoring games. The team who can make more contact, maybe get some more balls up in the air, is going to win both of the games today. Tomorrow, it's going to be whoever pitches well and whose defense is the best, because the wind's going to affect a lot of balls moving around in the infield and in the outfield.
Yeah, by the way, we made that graphic last night. It says Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's now 2 games today, doubleheader, and then play it by ear, I guess. For the
Yeah,
rest of the weekend?
they're gonna kind of tomorrow's forecast is kind of iffy. It's also the Nike N7 day where they're gonna wear the turquoise uniforms. If it gets postponed from tomorrow, they're gonna play it at noon Sunday.
Okay, so again, might get pushed back. I picked up the Ocali this morning, and this was written by your colleague Wade Haugen. We've had Wade on the show before, talking about Whitney Whitehorn. What can you? First of all, if you want to plug your sports writing crew, you can if you wish, and then also just talk about this this article and Whitney and the transformation to what she is now at OSU.
Definitely. I didn't know about Whitney's story until Wade told it. It's really interesting. It's coming back from 2 hip injuries, 1 on each hip. He starts the story talking about how she was just pitching one day and all of a sudden she felt the pain in her hip and how after a couple innings she couldn't bear it. She couldn't bear it anymore. And then he goes into the talk about how she went through rehab and how strenuous of a process that was. And Wade did an excellent job with this story, and he did a really good job telling the story and informing people, because I didn't know Whitney's story. I think it's interesting. Whitney has done a great job this season too. She's been the designated player from almost every game for OSU. She said I think she's had 2 Grand Slams this year. She always seems to come up with a big hit in big games, and her leadership is really setting that example for this team, kind of like I mentioned earlier, who has a lot of young talent who's playing.
We've seen this kind of with Coach Boynton, this kind of underdog mentality. Is that something when you have a situation like this where you're coming back from multiple injuries and you're having to struggle through certain adversities, is that something that's naturally good for a team, or how do you see that?
I think it's good. You kind of mentioned it. When a team is faced with adversity and they have to learn how to go through that and handle that adversity, it's going to really shape how good a team is going to be. When you're talking about Whitney's case or just even OSU's case as a team, when you're faced that adversity, especially in a conference that has teams like OU, Baylor, Texas, you're going to have to deal with that because you're going to be playing top-notch competition every single week. So it's going to improve the team if you can get everybody to buy in.
How much of a concern is it? Obviously, I know like Big 12 is where you want to have your best game, but with the Cowgirls dropping some of these games, UT Arlington came in on Tuesday and kind of roughed up, the Cowgirls pitchers late. Granted, it was late in the game, but is that maybe a concern that some of these teams that you maybe should have an easier chance or should be able to handle a little easier, and then they're not? Is that maybe a concern or not really?
So after the game, Coach Gajewski, he talked about he wants to get the program to the level where theoretically you can roll your helmet out on the field and teams are going to be like, oh, we can't beat them. Now, there may be only 1 or 2 programs who can do that, but in softball, it's such a game of it's a game of inches. I know you say that about football all the time, but in softball, if a pitch is just off a little bit, a team's going to hit it. What's crazy about that inning is OSU committed 3 errors in the top of the 6th. All 8 runs were unearned. So I didn't think Coach Gajewski said the pitching could have been a lot better. I didn't think it was as sharp as it was at the beginning of the year, but I didn't think it was poor. I just think it was little mistakes here and there. The errors is really what cost OSU, and that's been a lot of these games that they've dropped in the midweek games the past month or so. That's what's gotten to OSU is a couple errors here and there.
How tough is it when you're playing Baylor and then it's Texas after another midweek game against Wichita State? When you're playing these midweek games against non-conference, how tough is it? How easy is it for them to just look past UT Arlington when you also got another midweek game against Missouri State on the road, and then you got to come back, a lot of travel in there, and then come back and you're playing Baylor?
I kind of asked Coach this, and he was caught off guard. They had lost 4 straight midweek games after the UT Arlington game. Now, they moved up the Kansas series to play a doubleheader last Thursday. I didn't include that because they obviously won both those games. But when you kind of think about it, there's a lot of travel, especially during the week. There's tests that maybe the players have to study for. There's classwork they have to do with all the traveling and stuff. That can get distracting. Plus, when you're looking ahead at a weekend like, oh, we have to face Baylor. Like you said, we have to face Baylor. We have to face Texas. We have to face OU. That can get a little bit distracting, but I think they're really trying to focus on working one game at a time and playing one game at a time, and I think they've done a pretty good job of that.
Do we know who the probable starting pitcher is tonight?
I don't off the top of my head. Emmy Robertson pitched on Wednesday. Sam Clakeley pitched Tuesday. So just kind of what I've seen in the past, if I had to guess, it would probably be Sam going tonight, And then if they have to Logan Simonet comes in relief in the first game, I can see Emmy pitching in the second game. But if Sam were to pitch a complete game, I could see Logan starting the second game.
Okay, and like this starting staff's been pretty good this year, right? Like Logan Simonet's pitched better than I think some people thought she was going to. You've gotten, I think it's back-to-back now, complete game shutouts from, is that
Emmy Robertson?
Emmy Robertson. So, you know, a doubleheader tonight, Chris and I talked about this with baseball, these busy weekends can kind of wear out some arms if you aren't able to get good performances. How important is it tonight, before the last game of this series, whether that's Saturday or Sunday, to get a couple good performances from the pitching staff?
I think it's really important, kind of like you alluded to. Logan's had a really good period this year where she's pitched lights out. Sam has had a really good period this year where she has pitched lights out, and Emmy's right now is in one of those tears. I got to talk to her yesterday, and she said she's just in a groove. She said she's just feeling it. She's finding her right pitches right now. She's hitting her zones, and she's feeling really comfortable in the circle. And I think all three of those pitchers are at a good spot right now. Coach has said that this is the best talent of arms in the bullpen that he's had since he's been at OSU. And I think with improved recruiting and everything, that's going to continue to – you're going to see that over the next couple of years. But I think this group is definitely capable of having a big weekend.
So, you know, now we're about 3/4 of the way through the softball regular season schedule anyways. You know, is there someone – also, you know what Vanessa Shippey can do and all that. Is there someone so far that's really kind of surprised you, or even that coach maybe has said that has stepped up more than they even maybe thought that they would?
I think there's a couple things. The three freshmen, Sydney Pennington, who's been playing shortstop, Chelsea Alexander, who's been playing left field, and then Michaela Richburg. She has been playing a lot of first base, and she got put into the starting lineup last week. I'm not sure, or on Wednesday. I'm not sure if that's a stable thing yet. But those three have had to really overcome adversity. They've all had to find their niche in the defensive unit while also getting into a groove in the batting lineup. But those three have done a really good job and stepped up when coaches had their name called, because there's 9 seniors on this Cowgirl team, and all three of those freshmen have made really big impacts. And then when I think another story that Coach had talked about was that Maddie Sue Montgomery was someone who had not been talked about enough. Coming off of a year and a half ago, she tore her ACL, and now she's coming back. She leads the team with 10 home runs. She leads the team with RBIs. I mean, she's having a really great year, and he goes, it's a great story that no one's talking about. So I'll kind of give him a little credit on that.
We mentioned you're also the beat reporter for the women's tennis team. Any update on that? How the last couple weeks here?
I mean, they're 15-2 right now. They got a pretty big weekend series. They got TCU tonight at 5:30, and then Texas Tech, number 13 Texas Tech, coming to Stillwater at 1 p.m. Sunday. The Texas Tech match is going to be big. They always have to take it one match at a time, and Coach Young always has his team really prepared to do that. TCU is a really good team that OSU has done well against them in the past. But Texas Tech beat OSU 4-2 twice last year. They beat them on March 31st in Lubbock, and then they beat them on April 30th in the Big 12 Championships in Norman. So that I think there's going to be a little maybe bad blood there for OSU to try to come out, especially the returning girls coming back to try to come out and make amends of what happened last season. And it's also senior day. So Megan McCrae and Vladika Babic, especially Vladdy, she's going to want to come out and really try to funnel all of her energy and aggression toward that match and try to beat Texas Tech.
Is it fair to say, with how, you know, I guess baseball and softball have been, it seems like always in the storylines, that even both tennis teams have kind of been overlooked this year? They're kind of they're doing good, you know, men's 20-4, and then like you said, women's are 15-2. You know, they're just that under the radar. Is that fair to say with what, you know, I guess the hype is that's around baseball and softball?
I definitely think so. I wrote a column today for the Stillwater News Press about cowgirl tennis, and I said, this is one of the best, and I put cowboy tennis in there too. I said, this is one of the best shows you can get in Stillwater. The crowds are always into it. The teams are always energized, and you're always going to get a good tennis match when you go there. I mean, the Cowboys won 4-3 last week and had to come back to win that match on Friday. And the Cowgirls beat Florida earlier this year when Florida was ranked number 3. They won that match 4-3, and then they came back from down 3-0 and beat Arizona State earlier in the year. I think they're two of the best teams, OSU teams in Stillwater, and they're definitely they're free admission to the matches, so it's definitely worth everything.
Well, Cam, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on again.
Jourdan
Definitely.
From the Ocali, the sports editor. Where can people follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me at Cam_Jourdan. It's CAM_JOURDAN.
All right. Well, thank you, Cam, again. Obviously, an exciting weekend for softball and doubleheader again tonight. So get out to the Cowgirl Stadium and watch that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking some Tiger Woods, some ticker topics. We're getting you caught up on what we got caught up on, including a docu-series that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about in Stillwater. That's next. Border Battle, KXCY.
Against Kansas in that win, 12 threes made. Against OU, 9 threes made. Against Baylor, both times they played them, 5 threes.
Falling into this role, I kind of like it. Just any chance I get to throw for this team, I go out there and help them out in any way possible. I love to do that for them.
Is it disappointing for this team to know that they could potentially, if given the opportunity, have success in March, but the thing is it's looking less and less like they're actually going to get there?
I mean, you're dealing with one, right now, the premier softball program in the nation in Oklahoma.
Yo 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle on OSU Student Radio KXCY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. If you're tuning in for the first time and you're still wondering what the Minnesota slamming against the wall is and the and the Wisconsin slamming against the wall, it is Border Battle because I'm from Wisconsin, he's from Minnesota. What part of Minnesota are you from, Chris? Just in case they're tuning in for the first time.
Well, I'm from the central part of Minnesota, small town called Freeport. I always tell people St. Cloud. It's like 25 minutes away because they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or they're like, is that like 10 minutes away from Minneapolis? I'm like, no, it's like an hour 45, but thanks.
Some people want to know how far from Canada.
Oh, from Canada. You know, surprisingly, being central, you're still probably 5-6 hours away from Canada.
Yeah.
How far are you from Canada?
Probably
hop, skip, and jump across.
Probably probably about the same thing.
Yeah,
because obviously people forget when you go north in Wisconsin, you hit the UP before you hit
right?
Michigan before you hit Canada. So that's the interesting thing. Breaking news. We're breaking news right here on Border Battle. The Cowboys expected to release Dez Bryant. Good move? Yes or no?
I think it is, just for the fact of the drop off in production that they've been seeing we've all been seeing out of Dez the past few years. Last year was one of his worst years I think he's had with stats and stuff. And I mean, and can you make blame of maybe injuries and stuff? I mean, kind of. But if you're Dez Bryant, you are expected. You're the number one guy. You are the man for the wide receivers. You should be able to still wreak havoc.
It's less about his production, in my opinion. It's more about his $12.5 million salary and his $16.5 million cap hit. That's why he's going to get cut. Is if he does get cut, is finances. Because to your point, yeah, he's not playing extremely well, and you shouldn't get paid to be an elite receiver if you aren't going to put that production out there.
Plus, I think you can add too with his personality, kind of at times how he was kind of that enigma, or however you want to look at it. I mean, not to say other teams don't deal with the same drama, but Jerry Jones to me is the type of owner that doesn't want to put up with that after a while, especially if you're not producing. Yes, and I get the financial side of it too, but I mean, if all of a sudden you also don't produce and you're acting childish at times.
Well, but Jerry Jones acts just as childish, so I mean,
right? But you can only have one of them,
no,
it takes one to know one. You can look at it that way too. I guess
that's the point of this is like if you kind of have to pander, kind of cater to Jerry Jones if you want to stick around. That's just the way it is. It's what money gets you. All right, let's move on. That's the fun part about ticker topics. We can talk about whatever we want.
I want to quickly add too.
Yes.
So there was 3 teams that they say if he gets cut, where he could go: New England, Niners, or the Falcons. If you had a choice, where would you want him to go, or where do you think he'd fit best?
Where would he fit? Probably the Falcons, because the Falcons already have an over-the-top threat. If he goes to New England and they expect him to be the deep threat that Randy Moss was late in his career, I think that's a bad signing. I do. I don't think he doesn't have the speed anymore. People forget he's never been a burner, but he still had really good speed early in his career. He was never Tyreek Hill, but for his size, his speed was pretty impressive. And now he just doesn't have that anymore. So I don't think he really fits in New England. And if the 49ers do it, I don't know if that's really good for Jimmy Garoppolo. I think you need a guy in his prime if you're going to go out and get a stud wide receiver. So what do you think?
No, I'd agree. Like you said, you can't go to the Patriots if you're expecting to get another Moss out of Dez Bryant. Because again, they're not the same type of receiver. Moss. It'd be like a Julio Jones, yes. Then Julio Jones type of thing could, because Julio Jones was like Moss, that he's a over the top threat, that he's just
right. And that's the thing. You go to Atlanta. That's Julio Jones's job, so you can slot in.
It takes the pressure off.
Absolutely, and just be a red zone target. You know what I mean?
Right. I would say, though, I think you could fit with the Niners just with the fact of you have, Marquise Goodwin, who gives them speed and quickness. You have Pierre Garçon, gives the route running. He does the little stuff. But
I agree.
You don't have someone like Dez's size.
I'm worried with all the young talent that they have on their team, and they just gave $137 million to a really unproven quarterback. Why? How much money? What's the dollar amount that you're going to have to plug into Dez?
That's true.
And if it goes to the highest bidder, I can't see that being San Francisco.
No, fair enough.
So that would be my concern there. All right, let's move on and get into the scheduled ticker topics. The first one we had was this Ricky Fowler docuseries that was just announced as a partnership with NBC Sports and the Golf Channel about Oklahoma State University. How excited are you for this? It looks like it's going to be, you see there, May 7th, 14th, 21st, and then a few weeks between that and then the finale of the series, which will be on NBC. That's network television. How big is this for the program?
I think it's massive. It's kind of like what we just talked about, Cam Jourdan. Golf is another sport. It's just so underrated. No one, and I get it. Golf is one of those sports you really have to be into and maybe understand it. And I get that. And it's hard with traveling and stuff. But I mean, for what the golf team's done, and yet you hear murmuring, and that's about it. I think this is phenomenal to not only what they're doing now, but their history and some of the great golfers that have come out of this program. And also, the rivalry with OU and how I think they're technically the current champions right now. OU is, I believe, from last year, correct?
Yes, that's what the teaser video said, at least.
Okay, so
I don't go on Oklahoma's website and check out their sports.
Right, but so yeah, I think it's a massive thing, and I think it's going to be great publicity not only for the university but for the golf program.
Yeah, here's a quote on OKState.com. Again, you can find this if you just go to the golf. It's the top news story second top on news story for golf if you go on OKState.com. Here's a quote from Ricky Fowler. As a proud Oklahoma State alum, driven as a passion project of mine, I consider Stillwater my home away from home, and am excited to not only showcase my alma mater, but also provide fans with a unique insider perspective of what college golf represents. He then talks about the unique opportunity this year had. The golf team's ranked number 1. The national championship is at their home course, Karsten Creek, this year. They're going to have a chance to win it all on the home turf, which is a pretty unique, we talked about how unique it might be if the Minnesota Vikings had a chance to win a Super Bowl at U.S. Bank Stadium this year. It's kind of a similar thing here. And I think they picked a heck of a year to decide to do this docuseries.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there too with the rarity to win a championship on your home court, course, field, whatever is rare. Like you call collegiate pro, wherever you want to look at it. I mean, it's a tough thing to do, and so yeah, it's nice to have that and hey, maybe we can get Ricky.
That's what I was just gonna say, Ricky, if you're watching,
or if you have fans of ours that are watching and want to see Ricky on, we got to get Rick. You know, hashtag get Ricky.
Hashtag. All right, I'm good with that hashtag. Any opposition? Yeah. No opposition.
Nope.
Hashtag get Ricky is the hashtag to try to get him on Border Battle in the next month here before the docuseries airs. Anyways, let's move on here, Chris. Another golf story. Tiger has officially filed to play in the U.S. Open. Big for golf, obviously.
I say it's big for golf. I think it's big for Tiger to kind of keep in a rhythm, like, to just keep going. Because I think in the end he understood that with the Masters, I mean, yeah, you want to go in with confidence that you have you're Tiger Woods, you can win it. But it's a good sign that he's still going. He took a little bit of time to rest, but now he's like, okay, next one. Let's keep moving. So I'm excited, and of course, it's always great for golf to have Tiger Woods back on the course.
Tiger's 2 finishes this year. The U.S. Open is at Shinnecock Hills. And the last 2 times it's been there, Tiger withdrew one time early in his career back in like 95 or 96. And then the last time it was there, I believe he tied for 17th. So we'll see if he can perform a little bit better there. All right, we're winding down. So I'm just going to mention this. Reuben Foster earlier in the week was charged with 3 felonies and I believe 1 misdemeanor. This is obviously something where I think it's going to be a touchy situation for John Lynch, who kind of made the illusion that domestic violence was going to be kind of a zero tolerance policy. I know he said it wasn't going to be that way, but I mean, this is serious stuff that Foster is facing. We'll see how the 49ers end up dealing with it. I want to get to the last topic because I think this is the funniest and most interesting topic of all, which would never be on any sports show if not for a ticker topic segment. That is the Miami Marlins, or the Florida Marlins, whatever they are now. The Marlins, they still have 0 fans. Like, they have no fans. So they're AA affiliate. They're called the Jumbo Shrimp, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Ever heard of them?
Nope.
Me neither. I didn't hear the Jumbo Shrimp until I saw this story. We got some numbers that we got from the Marlins and the Jumbo Shrimp. This was the same night. The Marlins drew less than the Jumbo Shrimp. Are you kidding me? You can't draw the Jumbo Shrimp must have had some sort of better giveaway than the Miami Marlins. How do you draw more than an MLB team as a AA team? Do you even know?
I don't. Like, it baffles me.
The only thing that I could think of is Miami fans carrying out their grudge on Derek Jeter and this front office for getting rid of Ozuna, Christian Yelich, Giancarlo Stanton. That's the only reason I can think that you would go to a AA Jumbo Shrimp game. Again, I want to emphasize this is the Jumbo Shrimp. They couldn't even pick a cool name. And my goodness, this is just...
Is it fair to say this, like, could this team actually go bankrupt?
Well, I'd be shocked if they weren't.
Right. If you're not having any fans, you got to pay your players and staff to be at these games. Like,
well, let's be honest. This ownership group is probably not making any money on this team.
Right.
So it's funny, but then you start to think about it, and it's like, man, this is really sad that the MLB, that a team in major professional sports has come to that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking NBA playoffs. We'll give some predictions as well. The Thunder, 4 seed, they're actually going to host a game, thankfully not against the Portland Trail Blazers. That's next, Border Battle, KXEY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ, OSU Student Radio, KXEY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. Dunk it on him, Giannis. That's going to be happening to the Boston Celtics.
Stop.
In the first round of the playoffs.
I do got a quick ad, kind of a ticker topic thing.
Please.
I'm surprised you maybe didn't bring this up, especially since it's a Milwaukee person. Enrique Agumbawale will be on Dancing with the Stars this year. Yes.
Wow.
Dancing with the Stars.
Wow. And she's still in school.
And
she's only a junior, remember?
Yeah. Are you surprised that she didn't go to?
No,
the
because
class?
I don't think you get paid enough.
Well, yeah,
honestly.
it's fair. I had to ask. She had the two.
Well, I mean, like, if she would have graduated, I could see it. But I think for the way that the WNBA is, and we've talked about this multiple times, about the struggles to even make a roster and then succeed, and what you're looking at as far as pay goes, I think it's better to get your degree, than it is to skip out on years of school. So, real quick, I want to give a shout out to our producer, Landon Green, stepping in technical directing today. We appreciate it, Landon. Double duty, and he's doing a great job. Landon, thank you. And the rest of our crew as well. We appreciate all of our crew. Friday appreciation of our crew. Friday the 13th today, by the way. All right, let's talk about the NBA. Is it going to be a cursed NBA for the Oklahoma City Thunder out in the West, Chris? They play a home series. They're the home team, home court advantage in the series against the Utah Jazz. How do you see this game series playing out?
I think it's going to go 7, just for the fact of the last time they have not played since Jay Crowder was added to the Jazz. Rudy Gobert did not play when the Thunder played the Jazz. So really, especially on the Thunder side of things, this is a whole new team that they're scouting, they're looking at. Jay Crowder looks like he's been revived a little bit from his days when he was in Cleveland, which
most players did have a revival leaving Cleveland.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of the better series in the West, especially the 4-5. I'd say and the 2-7 for sure. Just because that's the Spurs Warriors.
We'll get to that in a second.
We'll get that in a second. I don't want to get too much into that, but no, I think this is going to be a game 7. It's going to be a dogfight.
If it is a game 7, I tend to think the Thunder's their talent will prevail in this situation. I think they clean them up pretty easily here in 5-6 games, and actually I think they could win those games fairly easily. But again, this Oklahoma City Thunder team has kind of toyed with us all year, so maybe this was the high, getting to the 4 seed, and the low will be them getting swept out of the playoffs. I'm not really sure, but if it does go 7, then that last game against the Grizzlies was big. Getting the home court, look, it gets overlooked. Chesapeake Energy Arena is one of the best stadiums, one of the best crowd experiences, one of the best, all around energies that you can have in my opinion, in NBA basketball. So it's going to be interesting to see if it does go 7 games, because then I give the heavy advantage to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, if they go 7, then I think Melo's going to have this hunger. He's finally back in the playoffs. Yeah. He's got a supporting cast. He is the supporting cast this time, instead of when he was with the Knicks, it was Carmelo's. It was the Melo team, so to speak. You weren't playing the Knicks. You're playing Carmelo Anthony. So I think for him especially, he's super stoked. Paul George was there. I think he was there last year. So like Paul George has been there more recent than Carmelo
Right.
has. So for me, I think Melo is super stoked to kind of showing if you can get to a game 7, Chesapeake's going to be. I mean, it's going to be thundering. Pun intended, right there. All 4 games when they're at home, if they can play all 4 at home.
Thundering. Oh man, holy. Anyways, Chris with the bad puns today on a Friday. Friday the 13th, Chris with the cursed puns. Unbelievable.
yeah.
I thought we outlawed those. All right, Chris, let's move on here. I don't want to like sell the Thunder series short, but I actually think the Thunder should be pretty heavy favorites in that series. We'll see how it ends up playing out. Let's move to the 2-7 matchup because I think Portland is heavy favorites over the Pelicans. I could see that easily being a sweep, and I think the Rockets 4 or 5 games against the Timberwolves. And knocking them out of the playoffs unless somehow Andrew Wiggins, I can't even say his name right, Andrew Wiggins plays the series of his life. Golden State Warriors, San Antonio Spurs. This is an intriguing series. What are your thoughts on it? Do the Spurs have a chance to win it?
I don't know if they'll win it. They're going to make things interesting. Just without Kawhi, again, LaMarcus actually has to continue playing like he has. Because if he starts playing like he did last year in the playoffs, or he just went, he would have like more turnovers than points and rebounds and stuff. Then the Spurs are going nowhere. Ginobili is past his prime. He'll give you some good nights like he did a few weeks ago. But even Tony Parker doesn't even start now. He comes off the bench. So it's the sense of I think they can make things interesting with their experience and maybe what Coach Pop can kind of brew up. But other than that, I still think it's Golden State's to lose.
Yeah, well, that's the argument every year, right? Is they have Pop, and I agree. I understand that they have Greg Popovich, but to the point that I want to make this year, I don't know how much it matters because this team is just not what it has been from a talent perspective. When you had the big 3 that they built through the draft with Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan, and then you have the overlap with Kawhi becoming a great player and everything that goes along with that. He doesn't really have a big 3. I don't know if he has a big 2 with this roster right now.
Yeah, and I think even to add to that, it's fair to say this is the matchup of 2 very inconsistent teams. To the Warriors,
Warriors are under 500. Don't forget this. The Warriors are under 500 without Steph Curry.
Yeah, which shows how much Curry actually means to the team over Durant.
Absolutely.
Which people around here are going to love that.
Love that.
But no, yeah, when the team and that's what I was going to add, the team without Curry, how inconsistent they have been. That's where and then they're playing a Spurs team that hasn't been consistent all year. Which it's hard when you have the whole rumors with Kawhi and all that background noise to try and deal with. Not to say that was a big issue because I don't think it was, but it was still there. It was a mental capacity.
If they were indeed having these team arguments, these team meetings that got heated like were happening in Cleveland, there's rumors that those were happening in San Antonio about Kawhi. And if that's happening, if you have players turning on other players in a franchise, your franchise is not headed in the right direction. And to the point, all of a sudden, Greg Popovich gets sick of this. If he starts to lose, if he gets bounced first round of the playoffs this year, what's to stop him from saying, I'm the greatest NBA coach that they've ever seen. See you later.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with Kawhi. Why would I? I thought I was coaching professionals, not high school kids,
Right.
like divas.
Well, and it's almost good to add, too. Is he doing it because it's what he loves? And if all of a sudden, you have players that make him not love the game and want to come coach, yeah, he's done enough in his career. He's just there because he loves it.
Yes.
It's not to keep. I mean, yeah, you want more rings, but he's won 5 already.
It's like Belichick, right?
Yeah.
Is Belichick still coaching for his resume? No, he's the greatest football coach of all time. He's coaching because he loves it, and he's coaching because he loves winning, and he loves competition. That's why these guys keep doing it. All right, we spent too much time on the West. Let's talk about the East real quick here. Do the Milwaukee Bucks, do my Bucks have a chance to beat the Boston Celtics? The narrative up in Wisconsin is #Bucks-in-6. I disagree. I have the Boston Celtics in 6 games.
It's again.
Is this a similar thing to the 2-7 out west?
Yeah, it totally is. Boston. Their main goal is going to be to stop Giannis. If they can stop Giannis,
Naturally.
they'll win. But Giannis has torched them. He averages like 33 points against them. and they could not figure out a way to stop him. And all we have, or I shouldn't say we, all the Celtics have is Al Horford as like their big guy, you know. So I don't know. I agree. I think it's going to be I don't want to. I think it's more of the Bucks to lose in a sense. Like if the team as a whole can kind of join in, I think they'll do okay.
Yeah, the Bucks will have a chance. Look, you take the training wheels off now. I don't care if you're scared of Jabari Parker tearing his third ACL. I don't care. Okay? He's injury prone. If that happens, his NBA career is done. Right now, you take the training wheels off because the way your front office handled this situation, he's probably not going to resign with you. You pissed him off. So you're not going to get any value for Jabari Parker. You might as well take the training wheels off and play him now. Play him like the star that he's supposed to be. Give him 48 minutes in a game.
Right, and if you have to do to it, I mean, to kind of not to go back to the West, but I will a little bit with the Timberwolves. I mean, they played Jimmy Butler 42 minutes in his third game back.
Exactly.
And his restriction was like 28, 29. But, you know, as a fan, we talked about this on Wednesday. I was like, I'm going to want him out there anyways, whether it, you know, like, and that's what he would want. You can tell he was gassed. He missed 2 free throws towards the end, but as a fan, you're wanting him out there.
But he also made like 3 or 4 free throws.
And then overtime he came back and he made 3 or 4, and we ended up, you know, we're making the playoffs for the first time in 14 years, which was great. You know.
Exactly.
But yeah,
this is not the time to be cautious about players. Not when you have a chance like the Bucks do. Now I understand you don't want to play Jimmy Butler against the Rockets, who you probably aren't going to beat in a 7-game series. If you don't want to give him 45 minutes, that's fine. You have a chance to beat a weakened Celtics team. I think you go for it.
I think, real quick to add, though, you also have to respect what Brad Stevens has done. And
No,
I still feel he's almost like a Pop. He's that underrated. Like, you can never fully go against, you know, a Popovich, even a Brad Stevens nowadays, and what he did last year. You know, you can't just lay your guard down against these Celtics.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. You can't do that. It'll be interesting to see how this series plays out. Give me one-word answers for all of these. Wizards and Raptors.
Raptors.
Bucks, Celtics.
Celtics.
Cavs and the Indiana Pacers.
Cavs.
And then Philadelphia
76ers.
76ers. I got the
76ers have the easiest path to the finals.
I got the top team winning in both of those. We'll continue this talk probably on Monday. We'll get some first round reaction and then continue throughout the playoffs our talk about that. Join us Monday. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about, including the NBA playoffs and a busy weekend in OSU athletics. We'll talk about all that. For the great crew around here, again, thanks to all of them. And for Chris, I'm King. Thanks so much for listening to the Border Battle on OSU Student Radio KXCY.
Against Kansas in that win, 12 threes made. Against OU, 9 threes made. Against Baylor, both times they played them, 5 threes.
Falling into this role, I kind of like it. Just any chance I get to throw for this team and go out there and help them out in any way possible. I love to do that for them.
Is it disappointing for this team to know that they could potentially, if given the opportunity, have success in March, but the thing is it's looking less and less like they're actually going to get there?
I mean, you're dealing with right now, the premier